Hello, I'm Frank Giles with AgNet Media, and I'm joined by Regina Thomas, who is with Farm Credit of Central Florida. Welcome, Regina.
Thank you, Frank.
Well, Regina, we recently did a story in Specialty Crop Grower magazine about crop insurance and some needed reforms for specialty crops. They're so much different than row crops, and each has its own special needs. And you recently attended a Farm Bill hearing session that was hosted by Kat Kamick, a congresswoman here in Florida who was on the House Ag Committee, and you had some ideas for reforms and things that needed fixing. And among those were advisory committees for specialty crops in the crop insurance system to help improve those policies. Talk a little bit about why that's important and what those committees might look like.
Thanks, Frank, for asking about that. Growing up in the Midwest, I understand the importance of crop insurance, with the I states and the breadbasket. And since living in Florida and seeing the challenges that we have with crop insurance policies for specialty crops, and I think a lot of the challenges is just not understanding the risk that are around and the challenges that our growers have, growing very high dollar crops in a very concentrated area, to be honest. Our strawberry um, actually producers are in about a 5 county area in central Florida, and they're very, very high dollar crops. So these create special challenges to crop insurance as far as rating and for our underwriter companies to carry, and also just how the crop insurance policies work. So when I worked with FFEA and Tori Rumenick, and we worked on the first farm bill, we came up with an idea to have a specialty crop advisory committee made up of agents and growers that are actually kind of boots on the ground to address the challenges with many of the specialty crops that we have in Florida and all over the United States.
Excellent. So this would as you mentioned, growers, and just talk a little bit about, I guess it hasn't happened yet, but what are some ideas of how this would work and the advice that they would give back to RMA?
Yeah, I think what's been proposed in the Farm Bill has been to have a representative of specialty crop growers and agents from across the United States, where we could look at each policy. One of the policies is whole farm revenue. I know we just had a tour with Pat Swanson, with the USDA administrator in Florida, and that was a big focus of her tour. So I know that they're really looking at strengthening these policies for our specialty crop growers. And she met with growers and agents to really get some ideas and firsthand look at, what are the challenges. So, whole farm revenue, our blueberry policy, our strawberry policy, they're good policies and they give us a safety net, but there's definitely challenges in getting enough coverage for our specialty crop growers in Florida.
And the representation is important because even within specialty crops, you mentioned strawberries, the interest of that and tomatoes are different. I mean,
Yeah.
every little crop has its own unique needs. So the idea is to kind of bring that to the table, correct?
Absolutely. Just to bring everybody's needs to the table. Some of the same types of policies are written across different commodities. So they can be tweaked a little bit from a policy level, or just from a commodity level. I know with strawberries, we have a production revenue history policy. It's one of the only ones in the United States. With some tweaks, these are really nice policies to give risk protection to our growers.
Right. And you mentioned the Farm Bill. Since the hearing happened, or the listening session that Congresswoman Kamick held, the House has passed its version of the Farm Bill. And I understand there may be some language that sort of gets us pointed in this direction, correct?
There were quite a few ideas that were floated out in the Farm Bill just for more research and to report back to Congress. I think most of the timelines were 18 months that I saw. One of them is Representative Franklin, I think, introduced an amendment that was to get coverage for temperature policy, kind of to help with freeze protection in Florida, to have that researched. And I think, just looking at those outside the box type of coverages and excuse me, index policies, I think would be really a great a great avenue for extra protection.
I recall Congresswoman Kamick said there's a lot of wins for specialty crops in that, at least that legislation as it was at that time. So hopefully that's the case, and hopefully the Senate will follow soon and we'll get it done. With that, Regina, thanks for joining us.
You got it. Thanks, Frank, for having me.